So like Eric said, we have Tyler from Flexa.
So hi everyone, I'm Tyler. I'm one of the co-founders of Flexa, and I'm excited to just share more about just myself and the team and everything we have, just a passion, more specifically around payments and what Flexa has been up to here. So it's obviously a pleasure to be a part of the Messari registry and what you guys are doing in terms of bringing a lot of transparency to these assets and crypto networks in general. So we're really proud to be a part of that. So and now share some of our updates. So at a very high level, just give me a real quick background of just Flexa itself, of what Flexa is. We like to build ourselves as a new payments network to allow digital assets to be spendable in retail stores. And what's a little more novel about this is that on the pure digital side, we've really truly built this network from the ground up. From a global perspective, these assets are spendable anywhere without fees or foreign exchange fees. In terms of the privacy, there's no sensitive or personal information that is used within the payment itself. And then we use distributed ledgers to verify transactions. So it really starts to eliminate fraud in the system. It's not making it completely fraud proof. And then from a cost perspective, we remove a lot of complexity within these systems. And we ultimately can offer the cheapest rates around actually receiving, transacting, conducting a retail payment. And then even from a digital side, this is all contactless. There aren't any pins that need to be entered on machines, and then there aren't any physical cards involved. So one thing that also would add is that these are the things that Flexa is not. We don't use any of those existing networks like Visa, MasterCard, or any of the other debit networks. There's no debit cards, there's no banking cards involved, there's no open loop virtual prepaid cards. And we're also not a part of any of these other affiliate programs or cashback. A lot of that is very common on the internet. A lot of other cryptocurrencies or crypto projects or other apps like use these mechanisms, which is completely fine. But we do not use those. They're really just not as sustainable in the long term, particularly around merchant payments. And those sorts of systems here can literally be the most expensive payments a merchant can receive. So that is really not our focus whatsoever. This is really it. So we really want to change the game for merchants. And what this means is that when you start looking at all the various components within this ecosystem or operationally, you have merchants that have tens of billions of dollars potentially invested in hardware, software across their entire payment stack of what they can, whether it's in their physical stores or online. All of these systems, it's very complex, it's very expensive. They've already got so much sunk costs in their system. And then when you look at even the operational complexity, you have supply chain operations, you have the vendors, you have the rent, you have the employees. Like, these are really big operations, and they pay all these people in cash, and they have flows for how this all works. They have accounting for how this works. So they're not looking for something that disrupts 99.9% of their business. And then how do you also build something that works for all different types and be as ubiquitous of a payment network? So you have small and large businesses, you have online, you have in-store, you have restaurants, you have gas stations, all again with different interfaces and different experiences. So how do you build something that's going to work for all of them? And something that they actually want, something that can be really easy, and something that can also just be really cost effective. So that's what we've really been setting out to do, and that's what Flexa is. So I would say in describing just how it works in general, so Flexa connects deeply with merchants to create a universal backwards compatible payment code as shown in the presentation. And this now enables one-tap instant purchases in store. So if you have any sort of a digital asset, you want to spend this, you could just display this code on your phone. And then if a merchant has a scanner, they can scan it, and then the transaction would be complete. So literally just one tap, one scan, extremely seamless, very easy. It works with all of the other hardware that the merchant has. Or if they actually don't have a scanner or they have other hardware they would like to use, another option that is available on Flexa now also is where the user will in a payment code on the terminal itself. So we have integrations with POS providers where these sorts of codes will get displayed upon checkout, and you as the user will scan using your own wallet, similar to a typical cryptocurrency transaction, and then the payment will also be completed. And so the idea here again is that there's no new hardware, no new software, nothing else that the merchant needs to upgrade in order for this to then work with them. And we connect with all of these merchants. And then, as we talked about Flexa being a network, we then open the other side of this, so the access to these payments through an SDK for any wallet to use. So ultimately, Flexa is not a consumer company. We like to think of ourselves as almost like a payments pipe, and that we connect all the merchants, the integrations that they then need, the deep integrations they need to make it very easy for them, all the hardware and software, and we open the other side to allow any other wallet and any other crypto assets, other digital assets to basically plug into that side of the equation. So to do that was actually a little bit challenging, particularly on the wallet side. So this is really where it comes into the whole crypto network aspect. And we talked about this being Flexa collateral, and this is also how we've created an open network. So when I talked about these wallets being able to access the network, we don't want to have to trust them. We don't want to have to, build this great open network, and then we need business relationship deals and contracts and all these other pieces. When again, this is what crypto networks have provided us. So to solve this problem, we just used a collateralization mechanism, and there is a network token, so FXC, and it's just an ERC20 token. Flexa itself is not a blockchain, nor will it ever be a blockchain. We process everything the old-fashioned way through all of our merchant integrations and backend software. But on this component, the consumer side, users of these apps do not have to pledge collateral. They do not need to interact with the system. This is not something they even see or potentially even know about. But the wallets in aggregate will pledge collateral in the form of this token into a smart contract on Ethereum. So all it is, the Ethereum contract. Let's say this wallet A, has a whole bunch of users. It wants to spend all different types of digital assets. It would then transfer FXC tokens into this smart contract. And then the network is able to see that and say, all right, this is a network it has access to. Let's say there's $100,000 of collateral in that contract. The network now can say, all right, we will now let all of your users transact whatever tokens they want in any amount of throughput, buy things in stores, instant confirmations, up to that amount, let's say it's $100,000, of unconfirmed transactions, whatever tokens those are. So some crypto assets might take a few minutes or hours until there's an appropriate amount of confirmations. Others might take a lot longer. But that's kind of the general idea, is that this collateral is put in place to basically enforce that all of these payments are essentially always going to be good into the network. So it's very similar, I guess, in philosophical terms, like a proof of stake network. We'll talk about having to stake tokens. They're not literally staked in the sense of those networks in those consensus mechanisms, but the concept is very much the same, in that an entity will stake these tokens into a smart contract, which then allows all of their users to spend against that collateral at any given time. And as the assets confirm, that collateral becomes reusable. So those are just like part-time holds. And then and in doing this too, when the crypto actually gets sent, the spendable assets are sent into the network itself. Flexa will exchange those assets, either send crypto on to the merchant themselves if merchants want to receive crypto payments, or if they want to receive fiat payments, which is often the case for the largest ones. We'll facilitate that, and then we ultimately make bank transfers for merchants for them to be able to get bank deposits easily, simply, just as they usually would. And then the other really, really critical component to this is that in setting up this network and building it from the ground up and having this opportunity around how to make something really scalable and actually work and even compete against these duopolies that, at least in the United States, that we see, the small fees that Flexa does charge the merchant for this service are used to buy more of the FlexaCoin token, and there's a fixed supply of these tokens And all of that is automatically redistributed back to the stakers or the people providing the collateral. So what that now means is that anyone providing all of the collateral, they're the ones that are earning all of the fees in the network. So Flexa as an entity does not make money, does not have a business model. There's no one else within this that is just rent seeking. This has really been set up to a system of providing the collateral, those people providing the value, securing the network are the ones that earn all of the financial incentive and all of the rewards in the system to keep this all going. So getting on to like some of the kind of the updates that we've had over the past year. So Flexa itself has really been sort of like 10 years in the making with the team behind this, our passion for payments. Even myself have been mining Bitcoin since early 2011. So this has been a really long road for all of us. But we finally launched the network a little bit more than a year ago, last year. And we've been really excited now to have a amazing collection of merchants that are now actively accepting cryptocurrencies and other digital assets as payments in their stores, all live on the network right now. These are apps that you can use, and go do this now. Also, we have a great shout out to Gemini, one of our very strong launch partner, and then other exchanges that we've been working with now over the past year to add more and more digital assets and functionality and jurisdictions within the network itself. And then also NCR is the largest point of sale hardware provider in the entire world, and now having a direct integration with Flexa, again allowing all of these existing terminals now across the world to be able to accept Flexa native payments is really exciting. And so beyond that, we've now been able to expand and offer all different types of assets. We started with a much smaller group of digital assets. This is expanding now almost on a weekly basis. Really excited about some of the other assets that are now on the network that we can spend. And then also we, on our website, made some updates to a handful of wallets that either now have the SDK already implemented and are live on Flexa, or are coming very soon on be working with these amazing teams to get now all of this native spending functionality of those assets onto Flexa. We are now currently live in the US and Canada. So we launched in Canada over the last summer as well. And then we've now got our next wave of jurisdictions that are able, we are awaiting launch, have gotten the appropriate approvals, licenses, merchants, hardware integrations, basically the full gamut of what it takes to actually launch something like this in another country. We've now got the next wave really set and looking to expand, deciding some of the timing on this, which is going to be really exciting, because the whole idea is that you could take a USDC or a Gemini dollar or a US coin and take that, travel into Europe, and be able to spend that natively in a European store without any fees or foreign exchange costs is just going to be so exciting for us. And that's the way that this will be. So we've also spent a lot of time on advocacy. This is new. We're working with some of the largest merchants in the world. And digital assets, cryptocurrency assets are new to them, understanding how they work, what are the risks involved, right? This is always like kind of an ongoing theme in our industry. So we are really excited. In September of last year, we participated in an effort with the premier consulting company, McKinsey, and also Mall of America, to help them open a literal physical retail store where they allowed cryptocurrencies to be usable to buy things in the store with a whole bunch of other mainstream brands and other technology partners. And so that was it was really exciting for us to see, sort of validate what we had done, how this all works, what the cost is like, how there is no fraud, the efficiency, and just how this entire ecosystem comes together, and getting people to really trial this. And this is also an ongoing experiment, and other stores that will be upcoming. And so we're really proud to be able to participate in that and play a role in sort of the advocacy and the studies and some of the data that will also be published around digital asset spending and what it looks like to make payments on the Flexa network. From an even usage perspective, on the staking side, as we talked about actual network participants, this is probably the most exciting thing we've seen, whereas literally more than half of the entirety of the tokens emitted so far are usable in the Flexa network are now actively staked in this smart contract, backing apps on the Flexa network to the tune of roughly $40 to $45 million worth of open spending capacity is available on the Flexa network literally right now. So that's been, and this is like literally earning rewards in the system. They're getting paid these rewards, just as I mentioned earlier. All of this is live, and to have that level of participation has been super exciting. Really, I mean, thanks to all of our community and the people that have just been behind us from the very beginning, as well as just the entirety of just the ecosystem. One interesting piece around just the assets that have been spendable. We got really great support, as I mentioned, from Gemini. They've been fantastic to work with. And then even the Litecoin folks have done some campaigns and really got out there and spending Litecoin at all these stores and making lots of videos. And so I really want to give a shout out to John Kim 77 leading that, and then Charlie Lee himself. Like, thank you guys for everything you've done there, showing people how these assets can actually function as money. But interestingly, Bitcoin is still leading the way, despite what we kind of see, and even our reservations around people spending Bitcoin. It still is really taking the lead in people spending this, which was very interesting to us. It was not something that we had necessarily expected. We'll see how this evolves. We're looking to add, as I said, lots of these other assets. This is really going to evolve into, other stable coins, other reward points, loyalty coins, other digital assets, airline miles, things like this, necessarily even beyond these core crypto assets that we can also supplement into the network around what we look to have spendable. So what does this all mean? So what's next? So the first thing, we are now going live with online payments within the next few months. That's been something that's been on the roadmap for quite a while. But obviously, given the pandemic and where we're at there, we want to support that and build as fast as we absolutely can to not only help merchants but people, and be able to not have to go into physical stores and have these online opportunities. Like, that's something we want to stress and ship as absolutely fast as we can. In addition to that, we've also announced the COVID-19 program, where new merchants coming onto the system, Flexa is literally going to pay their processing fees on their behalf. So for the remainder of the year, we are literally offering new merchants on the system 0% fees. And that's something, again, not only do we want to offer the lowest fees that are already out there, we've literally built the system for merchants and a new novel approach, as I mentioned, but being able to stand behind this and literally offer free payments to merchants with Flexa literally funding that on their behalf is something we're really excited about. The SDK that I mentioned that is live and has been released is only for custodial apps currently, but we are now working on the non-custodial version, again, with the idea within the next, at least definitely by the end of this year, having this out where you'll be able to spend crypto assets from your own wallet, maintain your own keys. You're not even to submit to any custodial service, or even to sending your coins anywhere else. They can remain yours. You can spend them in the same way. And that, again, has been the plan from the very beginning. And then also just the international expansion, as I mentioned, super excited about that. Hundreds more assets that we already have in the pipeline. And then again, we'd be remiss if we're not getting, thousands of other merchants into the system here. So there's also a handful of updates for the token itself. So beyond just the network.
Hey, Tyler?
Yeah.
Yeah, so I just want to leave a little bit of time for the Q&A. So,
sure. I will wrap up in 1 minute.
All right.
Okay, so we got so the token, we've got some token upgrades, some new function that essentially allows it to be more easily usable, stakeable across a lot of our other partners that we're currently working with. So we actually built this with a partner currently in audit, a technical white paper around this, but again, just more enhancements to the token itself. And then as we've kind of seen this jumping really quickly, and it's like what some of this can mean, and we're seeing this all work and how you collateralize these payments, working with payments, crypto goes into Flexa, they exchange it, they pay back the rewards. Having this actual virtuous cycle working, how much value is actually in the system has just been extremely surprising to us. I mean, you see Visa, MasterCard, PayPal all making tens of billions of dollars a year, hundreds of billions of dollars, you know, where certain ones, card networks, are just messaging services. Like, what you could actually get out of this, looking at some of these high-level numbers, have been completely crazy and way beyond what we even could have thought would exist from just the token or the network economics itself. So given, you know, huge assumptions around how much would be spent by Dave versus certain retail spend in the US, how many rewards will then get generated from that, how much collateral would be acquired to basically support that in the system, given how much would actually be staked for certain wallets and how much would actually be spotty within the network itself because it's not fully efficient, and how much you start to calculate over what the network actually becomes worth is just completely ridiculous. And seeing how, and I say that in a really positive way, because this is what it's like. And we're not trying to, keeping in mind, we're not trying to optimize the lowest network value. We're trying to minimize fees. And so by minimizing fees in the network, you can actually have a less efficient network, but it becomes more valuable, and ultimately all the participants are better off in the long run. Not only being able to generate all of the value out of this, because all of the value accrues in the token itself. So all of the participants, all of the wallets, but then also for merchants, which is really the key piece, and that this can still be the cheapest payment and network for them to be a part of. So yeah, there's kind of where you can find us, the information, blog, Discord, our website. So yeah, hope that works. Thank you.
All right, thanks. That was excellent. So just a couple of questions quickly from the audience. First one, so it says, I might have missed this, but how does your team work with merchants? So basically, what is the outreach process like? What is the general pitch to get merchants to accept crypto? And then I guess probably a related question is, I guess you kind of touched on this in the presentation, is do you see people wanting to spend their crypto? I mean, you kind of mentioned that people are spending Bitcoin and Litecoin a little bit more than you would originally imagine, but in general, you know, are you looking to integrate more stable coins, or, you know, tokens that would typically be spent more than for store value purposes?
Yeah, I'll answer those in reverse if okay.
Okay.
So the first one, that's probably one of the most critical questions we see that we really had to look at from the very beginning, is do people want to spend any of this stuff? I've of the mentality that the majority of crypto that we see that people are investing in is speculative. People do not want to spend that. Maybe there's some off-ramp opportunities, and we obviously see some people like to spend it. And that will absolutely exist, and we want to support that as best as possible. But for us, the most exciting components around like what people will spend, you know, you've even seen some other projects that have been mentioned a little bit here, but things like another payments token like Terra, a stablecoin project that is now getting into the hundreds of millions of dollars transacted. These tokens are designed for spending, and that's what's really exciting to us. So it's tokens that stablecoins can be one, other communities or other projects where literally the tokens, they're designed to be transacted, right? They're designed to not necessarily have any speculative value whatsoever. Those, and then even getting beyond in a more abstract around just any digital asset. When you talk about other assets you earn, like loyalty points or airline miles or hotel stays, all these things, which are literally just a point in a you know, a record in a database, just like anything else. So if you can unlock that in exactly the same way, well, those are points you actually want to spend all the time. Those are things you earn that you actually have the perception they're going to be worth a lot less in the future. And then it even gets as straightforward as we can use this with tokenizing or working with the right partners to just spend dollars from your bank account. So if you have a Venmo app and you just want to spend dollars in your app, it's an interface like anything else, and you have dollars, and now you want to spend this at a merchant in the exact same way, that also can be supported on Flexa, and it has been from the very beginning. So it really is about moving up. And that's why I really try to emphasize this whole merchant side of like what this is for and what we're really after, and how we built in these other elements to try to make this really encompassing, because it really does have really kind of broad aspirations of what this starts to look like and the types of assets, the apps, and those sort of things. Sorry for the longer answer to that. And then on the merchant side, it's sort of both. Some of the larger ones, we've started on the larger side, are going to be one-on-one. We're going to know these people for a long time. We really want to show them the value proposition. Others can come more in groups. There's smaller and medium businesses that are outreaching us. There can be, us in building our sales team. So it's really the entire spectrum of how we work with merchants.